Hey YouTubers, I just purchased a new handgun. It's actually not new, but new to me. It is a Glock 17 Gen 1 and it comes in this nifty Tupperware container here. Now this box here is not the first iteration. I believe this is a Gen 2 box, if you will. They didn't really mark these by generation, but the first one did not have these two little lugs on here, and people were putting their Glocks in here loaded and the trigger would get pressed, and there were a couple instances where guns discharged. Of course, Gaston Glock thought people were idiots who did that, but he ended up making this box with these two levers here so that before you can stow it, you have to clear it and pull the trigger. It will not fit if the trigger is forward. And as you see, it comes with a brush. Came with a rod, it's not here, and two magazines. I know there were various magazine changes. I am not up on that yet, so I'm not sure which generation of magazine this is, but I'm going to find that out down the road. And then here is the manual that comes with it, printed March 1988. I would like to come upon the original manual that comes with the original Glock when they first started importing them in 1986. This one here, I researched the serial number, and as you see from the sticky here, this one was November of 1988. So this one was approximately 2 years, a little bit less than 2 years from the very first ones that were imported. And the biggest thing you'll notice about a Gen 1 is the grips. The grips go all the way around, and it's this pebble finish. The biggest complaint that I've heard of this, and the reason they improved this, was with sweaty hands, bloody hands, or in rain, it's hard to grip. I've not tested that yet, but that's supposedly the reason. And another difference, there is no rail like a Gen 3. Now the Gen 2 also does not have a rail, but that's one of the things you'll notice. This one here has the fixed sights. There are models that have a adjustable sight. Has all the other Glock features. There are actually not a lot of changes between the generations as far as parts go. There's a later, I believe, I don't remember if it was Generation 2 or Generation 3, I believe Generation 2, on some of the pistols when they introduced the Glock 22 40 cal, they actually put another trigger pin here, I believe it was in this spot right here, to hold the bar in place. And I believe it was with the Gen 3 they started putting it on all the models. Another difference you'll see, this little groove right here for grabbing the magazine. Gen 2 also has that. Now it becomes a little bit muddy with the generations. The Gen 4 is really the first one that they marked Generation 4, and it has a delineation line. All the other ones, it's a little bit muddy. The changes weren't all, it wasn't like they released a whole new model. It was a gradual thing, and when people referred to Generation 1, 2, or 3, it was more of the significant changes that they made. So they didn't make a generation change when they added the bar pin, and I can't remember exactly what that's called. But it was more of when the grip changed. And then with the Gen 2, moving from the Gen 2 to Gen 3, the change came with the accessory rail and the also the change in grip. These are becoming pretty collectible. In the Gen 1, there were 3 Gen 1s. There's the Glock 17, Glock 17L, and Glock 19. The 17L and the 19 are extremely rare, and the 17 is becoming more rare. The people that have them are holding on to them, Some people have modified them. A lot of them were police turn-ins, and once they were returned and swapped out, who knows what happened to them. But the gist of it is, there's not a whole lot of these on the market if you're looking to buy one. I haven't really told you guys yet, but I've actually been assigned or commissioned to write a Glock reference guide for Gun Digest, and when I found that out, I realized, you know, I've never shot a Gen 1 or Gen 2, so I set out to find them. The Gen 2 is a little bit easier to find. That only took me a couple weeks. Now, it's not as easy to find a Gen 2 now as it was a few years ago, but you can find them relatively simple or relatively quickly, and I paid about $4.50 for mine. This here took a lot of looking, and I searched on Arms List, I searched on Gun Broker, Guns America, I searched everywhere, and they're getting harder and harder to find. I did a little bit of question on some of the Glock forums. I asked some of the guys, why are they so hard to find? What kind of price should I look to pay? Because one of the problems I was finding, the few of these Generation 1s that I could find had either been heavily modified, which I didn't really want. They didn't come with a box and manual, which I didn't really want if I could avoid that, because I want to be able to get some good pictures for this book I'm writing. And then the other thing was they were priced high, like $700, $750, some of them even up to $850. And these weren't overpriced because people were buying them. People are buying them at this price. So anyway, I went to different Glock forums asking around, and of course some people are saying, well, the free market, if people are asking $750 and people are paying it, that's what you're going to end up paying. Then there were other people saying, oh, I wouldn't pay more than $500 or whatever. But this is what the market is holding on these now. Now I got lucky. I think I timed this just right. I actually put a bid on this. It was, at the time, my bid was $550, and I made it so my max bid would be $650. About an hour after I placed that bid, I found another one that I actually liked just a little bit better. It was actually a 1986 model, and that one was started at $650. So I placed a bid on that one also, and I figured, the chances of me getting both were slim, and even if I did get both, since they are going up in value, I don't care. I'd keep one as my gun and one as an investment gun. But ended up I got outbidded on the other one. This one here I ended up paying $580 for it, which is a pretty good price, much better than $750 or $800 like I was finding out there. Now some of the guys, there was one guy, the guy who had his listed for $850, I don't know exactly what's going on with him, but he marked on his ad that this was a special edition made in Austria Glock, and that's why he was asking for such a steep price. And I pointed out to him that all Glocks are made in Austria, with the exception of a few of recently, in the last couple of years, there's a few made in the US, but all the other ones are made in Austria. But anyway, Schweister. There's not a lot of difference here as far as disassembly. It's pretty similar. The spring and rod are not a one piece. It is two separate pieces. Barrel, everything else, looks pretty much the same. Not a whole lot of difference. Some of the internals right here. This is shaped just a little bit different on the Generation 2. Not a lot. Some of the marks in the plastic are a little bit different on the Gen 2. This is actually, the front of this is hollow, unlike the Gen 2. If you have any questions or anything, let me know. Semper Fi.